Hi, Michael. How are you?
Good, thanks, Grant. How are you?
Yeah, look, we've obviously done a little bit of work on this, and I'll come back to you and look at the preparatory work that you've done so far. We've had some great interest to date, which is fantastic. Put your hands up if you can hear me, which is the main thing. Ian's raised his hand, so if Ian's raised his hand, then definitely everyone can hear us. Look, we've had some great feedback today, which is awesome. It hasn't been one of those things that, that we've sort of started up and thrown away. We have done quite a bit of work to date in relation to the Advisors Association. In fact, do you want to just go through the process where we are in terms of the corporatisation of the association, what we've got, etc., Michael?
Yeah, no problem at all, Grant. So where we're at the moment, we've formed a not-for-profit organisation entity, our public company. At the moment, there's 3 directors. You require a minimum of 3 directors. Those are Grant, myself, and Tim Munro. I'm also the secretary of that public company. So far, we've obviously been talking about this at various webinars, and we sort of canvassed out any interest in being part of working groups in relation to the association. Those working groups will be, Grant will go through it, but they'll be involved with obviously branding, the association rules and guidelines, CPD, training, and further. And so far, we've had very strong interest. We've had about 30, I've got a list of about 30 people who are interested in being part of a working group or various working groups. And in addition to that, we'd have at least 50, if not more, people who have shown interest in becoming foundation members.
So it's just the right time, and this is again, it's a blueprint for launch. So we have got a perfect white paper. From my perspective, just to give you a bit of background, in 1994, I was involved in the original draft, well, not the drafting, but certainly the committees making recommendations on the Superannuation Industry Supervision Act. And in those days, it was exempt super fund. Obviously, SMSFs and excluded super funds in those days went through up until around about 1998. I remember making the change. I just put my hand up and said, that's it, I'm just going to do SMSFs solely by myself. Now, the problem about that is obviously there's a lot of accountants, financial planners doing self-managed superannuation funds, but it was only a sideline, and no one could see themselves as a specialist advisor in that regard. But I had a chat with a few people, and they said, look, if you set up an association that looks after this, and then you have accreditation, etc., standards, then people will start to, once they get the accreditation, will start to call themselves specialist SMSF advisors. And the original association that I set up with 20 other people, again, the founding members. I know Ian Felberg, you were one of the founding members, and hat tip to you on that one. And, we all kicked in a bit of money to get it up and running to start off with. Again, with any association, you want to be pretty shoestring. It took a while to obviously take off. It takes about a year or 2 to take off. But effectively, once it did, obviously the SMSF Professionals Association morphed into the SMSF Association, is doing, really well. But like any association, I think you remember the Institute or the CPAs, Mick?
Yeah, I am a member of a number of, so the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Institute of Company Directors, there's the list goes on.
I know it is. It's just crazy. And I think that when we go back and have a look at a lot of those associations, they were started, 40, 50, 60 years ago, even with SMSF Professionals was started, almost 20 years ago. So I think that, from my perspective, is that we can build a greater, flatter structure for this that really provides a lot of benefits for advisors, which I don't see really comes out of the larger associations, who are pretty heavily weighed down with obviously fixed costs. And after COVID, it's going to be interesting. So we'll go through our ideas, and again, feel free to jump on the chat or Q&A. Mick's going to be manning that, and as I will as well. We'll go through. First off, is the most important is that obviously it's been a huge year of change for us all when we have a look at what COVID's done. But not only a year of change, I think it's been a year of learning. For those of you who, and hats off to us at Lightyear Group, being flexible and being adaptable. We've never had fixed offices. Everyone's been working from home from the start. It's cloud-based, so it's been hugely beneficial for us. And I know many of you there, use Xero or use X plans, so everything is on the cloud. And from that perspective, is you've been adaptable. And given the fact that this has happened once, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen again. Have a look over at what's happening in Europe, the UK, over in America, and you can start to see that, we're lucky to get through our winter and really not have a huge impact apart from obviously Victoria. But in terms of the number of population, we're certainly well and truly down there. And if they manage their quarantine facilities all across Australia, and remember the Ruby Princess was the first, we probably would have been very low on the totem pole. But, it doesn't matter. I mean, these things are there to shake us up, and they've done a lot for us. It's been great for accountants because you've had so much work. In fact, it's quite funny where through Abbott-Family, we're just involved in a case at the moment where the tax office is pinging one of our clients for the cash flow boost and denying it because the client had a contractor and entered into a voluntary PAYG agreement, and the tax office had knocked that down. So you're going to start to see lots and lots of litigation around this. From our perspective, obviously, when you're frightened or when you sorry, there goes my keyboard. Sorry about that. When you're concerned about your health, you're told people are dying. I remember seeing, in early January that Chinese-related social media just were showing people falling down in the streets, which is very unusual because they never show social media anyway. But obviously, it was a great concern to everyone. And out of all of this, it's quite clear that that asset and family wealth protection stuff just hasn't been done for a lot of our clients. We're relying on old discretionary trusts, relying on companies that really don't stand the test of time in terms of providing asset protection. Succession is a huge issue, whether it's just succession for the business or, more importantly, the succession of the family. And then, of course, there's the estate planning, whether it's in an SMSF, whether it's inbuilt through a SMSF Death Benefits Trust, which is a testamentary trust for an SMSF, whether we use it wills and testamentary trusts, and subject to family provisions claims. It just keeps on going on and on. And, from that perspective, there's a great opportunity. To date, when we have a look at those three key areas, the succession, asset protection, and obviously estate planning, which has many little niches underneath that, there's never been anyone comprehensively looking at that. We tend to obviously go to our lawyers for our estate planning. Asset protection is something that, accountants tend to do by setting up trusts, but they don't, the other side of the coin, they also have clients' assets in their own name, their family home for the principal place, a resident exemption, and also investment properties are negative geared in their own name, so they get the tax benefits. So there's a lot of exposure there during life and also on death because there's family provisions claims. So there's a lot of opportunities there, and the more I dig into this, and I'm sure it's the same with Michael, I know the more we get in, the more strategies we find, the greater the opportunities out there. And when you're talking to clients, the ability to obviously set in place structures and strategies that really not only is family wealth protected, but it's also going to be distributed or passed down to bloodline only. That has a really huge impact. And with $3 trillion of family wealth to be protected, and that's on the very downside, I would say that $3 trillion of family wealth is going to be passed over the next 20 years. But if we're looking at asset protection, even for people who are starting up at, age 30, 35, 40, you're looking at a position there that's up to $5 to $7 trillion as a total scheme of things. So there's a really good opportunity there. And, from that perspective, if I go back and see now the SMSF Association has so many specialist advisors, so many associates, and again, it's just a position that there are a lot of people who are quite happy to just classify themselves solely as SMSF specialist. So, from our perspective, it's vital, I feel, to really change Australia, and for that matter, possibly the world, but I'm just looking at Australia for that matter, is that someone who's there from a high level, looking at the total succession, asset protection and estate planning. And for that, that's where we need to have specialist advisors who are accredited, and more importantly, are backed by a reputable, forward-thinking, advisors association in that regard. What's your comments on that one, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly see this as an extremely valuable area, and it's and it'd be great to have the backing of an association, and also I guess a community in which accredited SAPEPAA advisors can get together and work on various strategies, and be able to share ideas of what they're doing and putting into place. I mean, one of the great things that's been launched recently in terms of single director companies is that we've obviously had the successor directors, and it certainly wasn't an area that I personally thought of or even considered, but you have opened my eyes up in relation to that and the importance of it. And I know a large amount of accountants and advisors use single director companies. So, I see having this association is a real foundation or behind all of that.
Yeah, so what I've got is project milestones to launch. And so we'll just go through the areas that we see where we're at, and with the timelines, and I'll cover that. So in October 2020, Michael set up the public not-for-profit company. Directors signed off on a blueprint that we're showing you in November. Now what we're doing is setting up these working groups, membership and standards committees. And again, we can take from the existing associations that we have, we can take the best of it, and we can leave all the crap out. And I think that's pretty important. We want to have a forward-looking, an innovative, future-thinking association, because essentially, when we're looking at this, it's generally high net worth, or it's it's stuff that really makes a huge difference to our clients because it has an impact on their family. So we'll have a working group, and then January, February this year, if you're around, we'll go through the process. But if we can set up some working groups to set standards, running costs. And again, we don't want anything hugely, detailed, because if you have a look at the Institute of Chartered Accountants or, the SMSF Association, it takes a while to build these things up. So over time, this is a startup association. So we need to get our basics down. And I would have thought the first one is obviously going to be, what's required to be an accredited specialist SAPEPAA or SAPEP advisor. What's the designation that we can provide there? That will take a little bit of time, but at least if we get our education in and get it moving, we'll do it from there. We'll have a working group, and then in February 2020, looking at offering 5-year foundation memberships, the same as we did in the SMSF Association. So whether it's 5-year or it's a lifetime, again, we'll take feedback from each of the working groups just to get us up and running, to get some money in the door, get a bit of a secretariat, and then obviously from March 2020, launch it across Australia and in the press. Hopefully that Mr. Darren Tyson Chan's on.
Yeah, he's on.
Yeah, so Darren, it'd be great for you to promote this and help us, and maybe even help with a newsletter or magazine or something, not right at the outset, but just something minimal that, we can get a lot of information, because I know if we have a look at SMSFs, in terms of this area, there is so much information around that, it just happens day by day. So we're looking at launching across Australia and in the press from the 18th of March. In fact, our launch will probably be around about the 15th of March or thereabouts.
Those dates they should actually say 2021. Sorry, February and March.
Sorry about that. That's it. It's the timeline. See, that's what happens with COVID. Drives you crazy. So it's my fault. Yeah. So these will be 2021. I'll send you out this recording, and also we'll send you out the slides for you later on. So if you want to get involved. I'll if you want to look at the membership criteria, Michael, and then I'll look at the accreditation, etc.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I mean, what we've just put in the blueprint is that the criteria looking for membership is degree qualified, working in the financial services as an advisor, accountant, current CPD commitment. Obviously, Grant sort of touched on it. I know, as being a member of some of the associations and institutes that I'm at, often the association CPD is very costly. We certainly, it's one of the areas we talked about and looked at, and obviously within our own group, we deliver good priced CPD at an efficient and delivered efficiently. So that was one of the key areas we wanted to do as well. They will have to be Australian, membership fee, Australian resident. There'll be a membership fee, a membership review and complaint section, and discipline requirements, of course, that you need under any membership association.
Look, I think from that, it's really important. As I said, we've just put down the areas that we sort of believe are relevant, but we're really open to that. Something that really strikes me, and I think it's really important, is to have some strong discipline requirements. We saw through the Royal Commission, there's been a number of SMSF advisors who are, SMSF association members, and there's absolutely no discipline requirements around there. So we need to set standards as heightened standards and people being ethical. Now, I don't think we need to go down the track of, obviously going and doing a 9 hours of ethics a year. And I think we can actually cover a lot of that off. If people have got CPD from other associations that are relevant, then we can bring that in, which is fine. So you don't have to go and, complete a whole lot of other stuff again. But I think the main thing there is to, set in place what criteria that you want. Should they have a degree? I don't think that that's necessary these days, particularly. I've seen some fantastic financial planners who've done wonders in that estate planning, succession space, and obviously they probably came in before the degrees were around, or the DFP. So again, for those of you who'd like to go into that membership area, please let us know and take it from there. In the accreditation, I set the standards for the SMSF Association. So what I'll do is, for those who want to come onto that committee with me, it's probably best for that. I'll be setting it at a postgraduate equivalent, which is much the same as the any SMSF. It's just at that high level, being able to read, understand regulations, rulings, all of that stuff, and apply them. So we'll go through that one. We'll build it over time. We'll set the standards to start off with, and then we'll build it in the same format as the Australian Skills Council does. So I'd like to engage Kerry Hides-Pearson, who did a lot of work with us up front in terms of the SMSF Association, and bring her on in as well. So we'll need to have a bit of a costing around that. But there'll be obviously heaps of recognised prior learning from all of you, and then obviously ongoing CPD requirements. But as I said, we need to be flexible around that. We don't want to make it onerous as well. In terms of the administration, do you want to just go through that one, Mick?
Yep, I was just reading the chat. So first 6 to 12 months, communication with members, website. Well, obviously, I mentioned earlier the branding. We want to get that right. The website, we've talked to a number of providers so far. We're going to take feedback from the working groups that we established. There'll be an initial landing page, hopefully before Christmas Day. We'll have something there, and then we'll have a membership directory. As I said, I've already got a list of about 30 people who want to be part of working groups, and it's a great great diverse group we've got. Then there'll be an online registration set up. We'll be setting budgets based on membership fees and costs and delivery of CPD. Obviously, there'll be CPD delivered from various independent providers as well that will be accepted for accreditation. So we'll be looking at all of those areas as well.
I think, from that perspective is, look, there's a lot of opportunities. There's certainly a lot of providers. I can imagine the lawyers will be really keen on this space as well, but you don't want to get down to be a legal fraternity organisation, not at all, because the last thing I want is those guys in there bullying us. But the administration, as I said, it's going to be very lean and mean, and I think that's absolutely crucial out of the whole process. We don't want to, you don't want to run up. It's a startup association. I remember, I think in the first year and a half with the SMSF Association, or SPA as it was then, that worked really well, and was run on a shoestring, which I know that effectively we can do. And probably that was 20 years ago. Now it's easier to build landing pages, websites, etc., really inexpensively. So if we go through, So if we go through, I think I might have missed one slide. Okay, sorry, yeah. So another key components, the education. Obviously, Mick talked about external providers. Look, it's probably pay for an accreditation as an educator, or for each element there. Look at doing an annual conference. Obviously, it's going to take a little while, but certainly an online annual conference that would be worthwhile to start off with. Advisor marketing. So one of the areas that I find is particularly weak with most of the associations is there really should be there for advisors, not themselves. And there needs to be significant marketing. What are the benefits of getting a SAPEPAA advisor? And, what are the key elements there? What can they do? What can they deliver? And obviously getting a bit of press around that, which is pretty important. So do you just want to go through the committees, Mick?
Yeah, so we'll have the first one was probably going to look at obviously the branding, I'd say branding, membership, websites, communication channels. We'll have a committee that will be covering off standards and discipline. So each of these areas we'll be looking at how do we want to deliver that? What do we want to deliver? And when can we deliver it? And we're building out guidelines and regulations in relation to that. So guidelines and regulations on standards and discipline, education, CPDs and conferences, as Grant said, we'll work towards an annual conference. Obviously, we'll be driven a bit by how COVID continues and everything, but legislation and regulation committee, client marketing education, which once again gets back to that branding and how we go out, and also how we deliver marketing to our advisors and accountants clients. So.
And look, Sean Cassillo came back, and what's the end goal is when we have a look at it. If you'd like to come back at us on the 4 different committees: membership, standards, and discipline, which obviously would cover the finance. What are we going to charge for an annual fee, etc. Education, CPD, and conference, which I'll get involved in. Legislation and regulation. I think the end goal there is having that designation that enables people to obviously not draft up these specific documents themselves, because that's a provision of a legal service, but obviously have accredited providers, etc., and setting down standards as to where a SAPEPAA advisor can take estate planning in terms of the overall laws, and definitely in terms of asset protection and succession planning. At the moment, if you cut the estate planning out, it's a pretty open field in terms of succession and asset protection. And so I think that we need to set standards around all of those, with the end goal that really there's a good solid format there for a business to be doing all this advice, preparing all the relevant documents, meeting with clients, developing, family plans for them, or family wealth creation and protection plans, etc. So we've got all those committees. The next steps are, if you're really interested in a specific area, let Michael know. And we've got Michael J at jaminvestmentgroup.com.au. We need to obviously create a strong platform for each group. I'll definitely be involved in the education and the, I'll be involved in the education, the legislation or regulation, client marketing, membership standards. I think that's probably best for Michael, obviously, if you can have a hand in that. And then what we'll do is hopefully a few of you who've got a bit of time, and I can't imagine it's going to be a lot, we can take up the secretarial efforts for the group, and that, when are they going to meet? When can we deliver? And look, honestly, for each of the groups, there shouldn't be more than 1 or 2 pages. We want to keep it really basic, so that when we go out and we do deal, obviously we've got Darren helping us along the track, that we can go out with a pretty strong, robust constitution that covers that. And we've learnt and we've seen what other associations, as Mick said, have done and haven't done well. Now, we don't need to go too deep. As I said, we're only just starting up. So associations grow over a period of time, and certainly after COVID, we should all know that we've got to be pretty flexible and run tightly so that we can manage that process and be flexible along that element. So we just want to have some broad ground results, have an accreditation, which the standards I can start to build. If anyone else is interested in that, I'll reach out to Kerry Hydes Pearson around that and get that into Skills Australia, which really now, with the financial planning now being monitored by FASEA, that's now been taken out of Skills Australia. So I think there's a really good opportunity there for us to complete all that. So that's where we're at this stage. If I go back to my lovely project milestones, apart from the 2020, with that December 2020, this is our first meeting. Set the standards. If you're interested, get to Michael, and I'll shoot this out a little bit later on. And let's get into it. I think this is a really good, exciting opportunity. And, I don't see that silo mentality we had before, that you're a financial planner, accountant, your accountant. Just doesn't happen that anymore, because you've got a client in front of you who's got a whole family behind them. They've got wealth that is subject to, attack by anyone, whether it's a regulator. Look, and I know Mike does some amazing things through liquidation, etc. So there's a whole lot of opportunities there. But anyway, I don't want to waste your time. Please feel free. Give me maybe an hour or so. I'll have this video out to you, and also with Michael's details. And if you're interested in belonging to one of the committees, please come back to us. And again, thank you very much for all of your time. Thanks, Meg.
Thanks.